Hello, my name is Sayeh, and I would love to tell you how this year, for the very first time, I was able to grow wetland native plants. You see, my garden is located in Toronto, Canada, which is Zone 5B. I try to grow plants that like my local conditions, and for me, that means that for the most part they survive with rainfall. I only water them the first year that I plant them so that they establish strong root systems, and after that, I let them grow with the local growing conditions. So while spring in Toronto has a lot of rainfall and everything is lush and green, by midsummer it rarely rains, and the scorching heat bakes everything to a crisp. Because of that, the majority of my summer bloomers are drought-tolerant plants. And honestly, I never imagined I'd be able to grow wetland plants until this year. So that's the story I want to share with you today. So back in 2015, I heard a program in which Mark Cullen, Canada's gardening guru, said that the single most important addition to a garden is a pond, since it provides a fresh source of water for wildlife. That is all I needed to hear to make me grab a shovel and begin digging. With some liner and stones, I made that oddly shaped hole I had dug out of the ground look decent, filled it with water, added 2 goldfish to eat the mosquitoes, and I called it a pond. Impact was immediate, since it became a local gathering place for all wildlife. The fish also thrived. Now, the main problem I encountered with the pond was finding a way to keep the water quality balanced and controlling the algae growth from the nutrients in the water. And for that, I tried a couple different things. First, adding year-round pots of water plants like blue flag iris that I actually grew from seeds I got at the Knapp Seed Exchange. And another one was adding little bales of barley, or sometimes just barley extract, to encourage the natural sedimentation of the organic material. And I even bought a solar-powered floating aerating pump, which is just floating around. But none of that really seemed to work. I really didn't want the cost, hassle, and maintenance of some fancy water filtration system. So from what I could find, bog gravel filters seemed to be the way to go. Let me explain how I made mine. I dug a large area to a depth of between 15 to 30 centimeters and lined that hole with pond liner so the water wouldn't leak out. I then filled it with pea gravel, and that's the only thing you want to use inside it. You want to make sure there are no sharp stones to puncture the liner and that there's a lower segment that leads to the pond. This is where the water can naturally flow to the pond without overflowing over the sides of the bog. Cycling the water from the pond through the bog needs a pump, and for that, I turned to a solar-powered pump that could easily be set up during the warmer months and then stored indoors over winter. Whenever there's enough sunlight, the pump begins to work. It pulls the water from the pond, takes it to the gravel pit, and as the bog fills up, the extra water passes through the layers of gravel and spills back onto the pond. While the gravel would physically block many of the solid particles in the water, having wetland plants is just such a win-win, since the plants feed off of that same organic material deposited by the water, ensuring that there is no long-term buildup. So you may wonder what I planted and how they have fared in the past 4 months. My swamp milkweed has just thrived. It's bloomed quite well, and it's the happiest I've ever seen it in years. I moved this Ohio spiderwort from a different location in the garden to the bog, and it hasn't stopped blooming since. it seems to be quite happy. Now, one plant I grew from seed last year is this adorable boneset with its tiny, tiny flowers. And guess what? It attracts tiny, tiny pollinators. Now, giant ironweed is the go-to buffet for tasty nectar. You can almost hear this little skipper butterfly smack its lips as it enjoys a feast. I have both pink and white obedient plant that are doing very well. It doesn't seem like they're doing much, but when I dug out one plant to give to a friend, I was amazed by the massive roots it had formed. So obviously, they have long-term plans. So while the pond water has been the clearest I ever remember this summer, maybe the most unexpected surprise has been all the bees and wasps who have realized that the bog is actually a really great place to land for a drink. It is true that if you build it, they will come. Once again, it's so lovely to see that each time I would make a little bit more native plant habitat, I invite even more wildlife into my garden. My bog filter has been an absolute joy, and I hope that my story encourages you to take the leap into creating one of your own, a little wetland in the corner of your garden. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.